Well, hello everybody and welcome along to the Hankook 12 Hours of Kuwait. Good to have your company. And it's John Hindorf and Phil Anson in the broadcast centre overlooking the start-finish line at Kuwait Motor Town. As you join us, we have just got underway for the first of 3 qualifying sessions. If you're new to this, we'll take a bit of time to explain it as we go through. Effectively, it is 3 15-minute sessions to be undertaken by 3 different drivers in the same car and on the same set of tyres and with the same fuel load that you are locked into at the start of the session. There's been some changes to the circuit here, which will follow around the BMW number 429, the Century Motorsport car, which includes Nathan Freak in the driving lineup, and then we'll pop down to Nick in the pit lane for a little bit of update. If you were with us here last year for the first major event of Kuwait Motor Town's International Motorsport career, you will know that part of the circuit that the Century BMW is coming to now is turn 11, and then turn 12 onwards was called the Pentagon. It's still called the Pentagon, except it's now only 4 corners rather than 5. As they head through into turn 13, 12, 13 and 14 now, instead of carrying on through 15, look, he's going to turn left instead of going right. So here is the last of the right-handers, and then he'll nip across onto the infield into a club circuit cutout into what's called the mini carousel. It's the kleine carousel. In fact, it is a mirror of the, or a copy of the Caracciolo carousel on the Nordschleife at the Nürburgring, and that cuts a little bit of track distance off and also makes the lap a little bit shorter. And we have yet to see how that is going to affect racing. It's cut the track lap times down by quite some time. Therefore, we will be setting some new lap records this time around. Right, whilst these times start coming in, we'll explain more about that later on. Let's go down to Nick Damon in the pit lane for a little bit of atmosphere. The pit lane here, which despite the fact that it's beautiful, temperatures in the mid-20s Celsius at the moment, is beautifully in shades. Nick, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. How are you? And everyone out there in viewers land. Now, I'm very, very sorry to all of you who are watching in Europe, because blimey, the weather's marvellous. Look, not a cloud in the sky. It's 25 degrees. Kuwait, we love you. Now, as you've mentioned, there is a change to the track design, and we are outside the pits of the team that won last year in very exciting circumstances. So what I'm going to do is grab a quick word with someone who's driven both versions of the courses and also is a reigning winner. Charlie, because who's our chosen Charlie? He's one of the... First of all, there's 4 of you driving, but you're the one person not qualifying. Why is that?
Well, because I'm the senior guy. I get to take off a little bit of time. No, all the guys are a little bit doing really well, a little bit quicker than me, and I just said, let's go ahead and let you guys all qualify. So.
Now, of course, we have a change from last year when you won, where they've revised the track. How does that affect the flow and the run of the track, this much shorter end to it?
You know, frankly, we enjoyed the higher speed part of the track back there, but it's just a change up. It's a little different looking turn than most folks are used to seeing around here. It's a really tight turn with a little bit of banking. So it is a different experience for most of the big European F1 type tracks that we run on. So
tighter and less flowing, is that a disadvantage for the big old Merc, or is it no difference?
Oh, I don't think it's a plus or minus for anybody. You know, it's just a different look, and that's okay. Everybody likes to see a little something different all the time. Yeah.
Right, so thanks, Charlie. Charlie from the 85 CP racing car. And it's Joe Foster doing Sector 1 of this 3-stage qualifying, John.
Thank you very much, Tim. Nick. Excuse me. Alongside me to my right is Phil Anson, who is the voice of Formula One in this part of the world. And we've been excited about coming back here for basically a whole year, Phil, and it's a very busy weekend for motorsport in this region, which has had some knock-on effect, it has to be said, to the entry here. That said, it means we're going to have plenty of time to talk about each and every one of the cars, and also have a good look at this new layout. How has motorsport developed here in Kuwait since the last time we were here? I noticed, for example, there's a big outdoor exhibition in one of the car parks that was being used last year here this weekend at the same time, that is watercraft and off-road vehicles and you know, excitement and adventure out here. So this circuit beginning to generate a bit more interest and to generate some personality.
Indeed it is, John. Hello to you. Hello, everyone. Yeah, with that, now I had a good chat with Khalid Al-Madaf over lunch today in regards to what's been happening at this circuit, and it's been pretty impressive. Since we were last here, they've had F3 races here, F4 races here. They've got a good schedule coming up this season as well with the Clio Cup. The F4 is now a regional F4 championship, a Middle Eastern rather than UAE, so they'll be coming here as well. And they're obviously talking to other championships as well to get them down to run on a Grand Prix circuit, literally. I mean, this one we're on at the moment, even with it's the GP layout with carousel, 5.16 kilometres long, 19 turns. So it's a fantastic, and you and I have both driven this circuit, and
not in this configuration.
Not in this configuration. We did it differently, in a different configuration. But as we talked with the drivers this morning and yesterday, they really enjoyed it. So the circuit has a lot to offer. And then around the circuit, we've got the drag strip over behind us, we've got the motocross, we've got the kart drome, and they're also putting it as an experience centre for having these type of exhibitions with all of them, the watercraft, the off-road buggies, everything there. So turning this from a race into an event, and I think that is a really important thing, and it's a move up.
Now, we were racing at this time last year,
yes,
because we had it on the holy day.
Yeah.
Why the change to Saturday from Friday, and what effect will that have?
Well, I think Friday's a difficult day in this region, okay? It's a family day, okay? We would, you know, spectator-wise and local participation-wise would have made it a little bit more difficult. You know, as it is, we have one Kuwaiti driver here who was here with us last year as well, Haytham Kwarajuli. He's back again this weekend in the KTM, but yeah, it makes it better on the Saturday, which is the second day of the weekend here in Kuwait, for people to come along to this event now. We've got the fantastic setup behind us with the OEM manufacturers in the pits itself. So they're using this to promote motorsports and all types of sports in this region. I think it's a very positive effect as the sport continues to grow here.
What will it take to get... I mean, Kuwait does not have the same building up of the history as other states in this and countries in this area does. What will it take to get this place on the map? Just more of the same?
Yes, just more international events. Remember, we were the first international event to be held here last year. And with any country that's accepting new things for the first time, it takes time. Especially in this region, we're dealing with cultural things as well. So you've just got to understand that it takes time. There is a force behind it at the moment. After speaking with Khalid earlier on, he wants to grow this. You know, he's talking with other championships who were here during the week on their way to other places in the UAE about championships as well. So they have... The brains trust here is really looking at growing.
I like the idea that this is a multi-sports, multi-use arena,
yes,
if you will. It's a racetrack that can do so many other things. Drag racing's very big here, and that will drive interest to the circuit as well.
Indeed, and what they've done, they've created a complex which we have also at Yas, and we have with the drag strip down there, and Qatar and Bahrain, all have the same sort of motorplex type layout.
Good point, yeah.
So that everybody comes to the same area, and then you get cross-pollination, as we've got the KTM going quite slowly there at the moment.
Well, and there's a story on that KTM that's been completely rebuilt.
Yes.
We've had several days of I was going to say free practice. We've actually had some private testing, effectively track days, and unfortunately, one of those days saw a very big incident for the KTM. The KTM, although based on a road car, is very much engineered like a race car. So bits bolt on and bolt off very quickly. Probably just as well.
Indeed.
Because I saw the pile of bits that came off it, and it's been an extraordinary job already by that team, the Razzoon More Than Racing KTM team, who, if memory serves, got our Spirit of the Race award here last year.
Because they rebuilt the engine after a fire.
They rebuilt the engine and refitted it after a fire and finished the race last year.
Indeed.
That was within a 12-hour race, dear listener and viewer. I suspect if you took any road car to, even with an Audi-based engine, to a showroom or a service centre, rather, then just taking the engine out and putting it back in again would be more than 12 hours of labour for you. They started the race, they had a fire, the car was stopped in the pit lane right next to fire marshals. They rolled it away, they pulled the engine out, they put a new engine in, and they sent it back and finished the race, all within that 12 hours.
Indeed, and they also won the Middle East Trophy in the GTX class for all 3 rounds. So they are really there. Our well wishes go to Dominic Albert, who was at the wheel of that one yesterday. I spoke with Lex Akers down in the pits earlier on just to find out how he is. It looks like he has concussion. He may not be able to take part. He drove a car this morning, and he said, I'm not happy with that. So he's had MRIs and everything else.
Problem is with concussion, you can't test for it.
Yeah,
you know, there is no test. You can have cognizance tests, but you know, a scan won't show it, an X-ray won't show it. And from someone who has had a number of concussions down through the years in stick at ball sports, and indeed after motorsport accidents, that I can tell you it's not a nice place to be if you properly have concussion. It hits different people in different ways, but we wish him the best, and the good news is the car's back out. The car has been fixed. I was going to say you can always fix the car. Well, the car has been fixed. So our best to the carbon-based life form.
Yes.
We've got a carbon-based KTM crossboard, but the carbon-based life form is clearly what we are most worried about, and we wish a very quick recovery. Take the time you need is what I would say, but we hope that's not too much time. Now, interest here as well with the recent announcement that Vortex will be going down to the Repco Bathurst 12 hours.
Yes.
And here is the new for 2023/2024. This is effectively the 2024 version, the 2.0, if you will, of the Vortex, running a V8 engine, incorporating, I've spoken to the team and the manufacturer, incorporating all the things they've learned earlier on, and the Arnaud Gomez entered machine has Arnaud and Philippe Bonnet and Lionel Amarouche and Olivier Gomez in the driving talent. It was previewed effectively at Barcelona in the Hankook 24 Hours of Barcelona at the end of last year in September. Earlier this year in September, and it is still effectively in its design and development phase now, and this is what's going on. But great news that it's going to be at the mountain at the Repco Bathurst 12 hours. We'll be there for that as part of the international broadcast. Looking forward to that immensely with that trip moved a couple of weeks further back to be slightly further away from the Rolex Daytona. 24 hours testing going on for that at the moment as well. But we will have full coverage from the Raw and from the Rolex early on as well. If you didn't hear the announcement earlier on the week, delighted to say that we'll have sound and vision for that. And it's going to be a very busy start of the year. because we are also going to be covering the Dubai 24 Hours for Hankook 24-hour series and the Abu Dhabi 6 Hours, which is the week after, and they form the second and final parts of the Middle East Trophy, of which this race is the opening round. Now, only full season entries, so there are 14 cars entered here, so they are the only cars who can win this trophy.
Indeed they can, because it changed from 2 races to 3 races, so you have to take part in all 3 races to be there.
More on that in a little while. Also more on some technical changes that you probably can't see at the moment, but the teams have been working on since they got here, after we've heard from someone back in the paddock who's been away for a little while. Delighted to welcome back not only Nick Damon, who we've already heard from, but also the absolutely irrepressible Colin White.
So fast in TCE in the first session. It's Colin White. Colin, first of all, most important question, how are you?
Feeling great. It's great to be back and living the dream, really. It's lovely to be here. What a terrific place. And yeah, good staff and good everything here. Brilliant.
Is this your first race back following the accident 18 months ago, or have you done some stuff in the UK we've not seen?
No, we've done some little bit of UK work. The longest race we've done was a 1-hour stint. So for me to last more than 1 hour is something new for me from now on. But everything seems good. The weather's good on my legs, and so everything's good. So I'm chuffed to bits, really.
And straight out and straight setting the times in the car again. So it's you haven't forgotten then?
No. Still got it there. It's just nowadays when I look at something in a car in front of me, I just wonder what is they going to do. I don't actually. I just hold back a little bit, which might go means I go faster.
So obviously you couldn't be here last year because of what had happened. What's your feeling about the Kuwait Motor Town circuit?
I think it's a terrific circuit. It's undulating. It's got everything a driver wants. Some real, we call ballsy bits, and right, left, and it's just real flowing. And the more faster you go, the more it flows. So it's terrific track.
And suiting the Ginetta, do you think? Is it one of the track which the car goes well at?
It's really nice, and the drivers, one's from Spain and one's from Australia, absolutely loving the car. And we took the old car out yesterday as well, and took that round to make sure it's ready for Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and that's all actually perfect.
Of course, the good thing is anything goes wrong, you have a word with the boss, or the former boss, Lawrence Thompson, who's a bit next door.
Yeah, but he's gotten bigger bits than me.
Well, don't say that. Thanks, Colin.
So, first part of qualifying already in the books, and the times have come in, but we're not. It's not I'm ignoring the times at the moment, but in some ways, Phil, it kind of doesn't matter right now, because we're building towards a 3-lap time average, 3-lap time set by 3 different drivers.
Indeed, it's called the average qualifying time, John, the AQT, if you want, and that is determined by the QS, the qualifying status, QS1, QS2, QS3, QS4. So in that first session that we had there, if you have an AM driver, they must go out in that first session. The AM drivers do that first session. If you don't have an AM driver, you can put a Pro-Am out there. If you only have 2 drivers, and if there are 3 sessions, any one of those 2 drivers can do the 3rd session, okay? As John said earlier, no refueling, no tyre changes except for force majeure, a puncture or anything like that. 3 15-minute sessions. We've already had the first one. We have 5 minutes between each session. What we saw in Dubai, and remember this, John, we had some red flags where people were just starting their hot laps,
yes,
and all of a sudden they couldn't do another lap because they didn't have the fuel in the car to do it. So everybody's being very, very careful as Q2 gets underway. And we will get the average time up on the timing screens, because that is the thing that matters.
In the first set of qualifying, on the first run of qualifying, Century Motorsport and the 22 BMW were quickest with a 1:45.1, 1:45.2 for CP Racing in the 85 AMG, defending champions overall in this. The Manamari Energy by ABU Motors Porsche, third with a 47.5. 48.5 for Red Camel Jordan.nl. Hello to Paul Truswell, who I know will be watching. He's not here this weekend, but I'm sure he'll be tuned in from the Isle of Wight data centre. Hi, Paul. Best to you and family. Vortex V8 next up, the 701 with a 49.6. 49.8 for K Kramer Racing, one of two cars that they have. They've added a second car, which I'll talk about in a moment. G56 Cup, which has not only Lawrence Tomlinson, but Freddie Tomlinson, Lawrence's son. That's a 150.1, 150.3 for Rabdan by Fulgenzi. That's the number 971 car. The other K Kramer Racing car, the 937, is next up with a 52.6. 53.7 for the GT4 leader, Nathan Freak in the Century Motorsport 429. AGMC Racing Team by Simpson with their BMW 154.3. That's another GT4 car. Then in the two TCE category cars, it's CWS Engineering's G55, Janetta, the number 278, and the 138 Simpson Motorsport Audi RS3 LMS DSG with a 159.6. And those are your 14 cars, one more than we were expecting. Thank you to K Kramer Racing, who sneaked.
Oh,
they've sneaked their spare car. They have a second car that they're going to be using out here in the next few months. And they decided that they'd pay the extra entry fee and get some extra track time, not just in the tests. And so we've got an extra car then in the 992 class, which swells that category to 4.
Yes.
We've got 4 of those, 3 GT3s, 3 GTXs, 2 GT4s, and 2 TCEs. That's making up. There was a penalty very early on in that first session that came from one of the early sessions. That was the excuse me, no, it wasn't. It was the Vortex that had that, and that was served, the number 701. That was an indiscretion earlier on. That has been served, so they haven't lost too much time. We move to the second drivers. So now what we'll be talking about is not only the time in this session, but also how that affects the average. The brightly coloured number 95 Porsche for the Manamari Energy by ABU Motors out on the circuit at the moment. And we can't miss that one. Even in the dark, that stands.
It's going to glow, isn't it?
That stands out. And by the way, we were talking about just one set of tyres. This is a new Hankook tyre for this season, Phil.
Yeah, so the GT3, GTX and 992 class have moved from the C52 to the C54H tyre, which we had a little look at yesterday. We'll probably try and get some word with the Hankook engineers to find out what the difference is. Now, the teams can choose to go use the C52. They don't have to use
really?
the
So
C52.
This is the first time we've had a tyre choice then in CREVENTIC Racing.
Yes, so it's only for the top 3 categories at the moment. The other categories will follow suit later on. They're still using TCE and GT4 are still using the C52 compound.
Well, so this is quite a bit different then, because in the past, everybody throughout the field have been effectively running on the same compound of tyres, just different sizes and fitments. Whereas now, as you've mentioned, that's a brand new construction and possibly compound.
Indeed it is. And so what will happen, I dare say, that it will be bought in and the C52 phased out. So this is the crossover period, possibly only this race. We might get to Dubai and it'll be C54H for everybody. So probably a bit of a test bed going on here because the weather conditions will be the same in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi for the other 2 rounds. And the other sizes, other thing about tyres, and tyre sizes for the GT4 cars have been changed to open. Now, that means they can choose, but the rim size must maintain the same spec as homologation.
So that'll normally be 18-inch rims in terms of diameter.
Diameter, but then they can go with their width of what they want to do.
Right. Okay. So they potentially could either stretch the tyre on a wide rim. Let's say the rim is 10 inches wide or whatever it is under homologation for the GT4. So you could go for a slightly smaller tyre and stretch it, or probably more people go a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it just gives you a little bit more compression in the sidewall.
Yes.
And that way you're not playing as much around with your suspension. So
very interesting.
Yeah, so lots of work been going on with Hankook, and thank you for them once again for their continued support of the CREVENTIC races right across the planet.
Had a long chat with the guys down at CP Racing. It's Shane Lewis who's in this second session for the defending winners of this race. They are loving it, and they gave us a very graphic description of how quick you come into the new section of track, and that's where Shane's coming down towards that now through the S's section right in front of us. And if I look out of the broadcast centre windows, he's now turning into the first part of what used to be the Pentagon, going through the middle of the circuit now turning into what is actually the final part of that. And he would have gone off to the left there.
Exactly.
But now he's going straight on. They're carrying a huge amount of speed through that middle section of the Pentagon. Luke Broikers just following him through there. And then they rejoin the run down to the final corner about 2/3 of the way down. It does mean that you arrive at the final corner not quite as quickly, which I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent. There is the right-hand filter lane there to get into the pit lane. So you're coming to that a little bit slower, but the rest of the track stayed the same. So that huge run from the final corner to... It's a corner at turn 1. I don't think under full fuel load it's absolutely flat in a GT3 car.
Well, we spoke with Charles Espinal last year about it, and he said it took a little while to keep the foot planted in there, because if you go off there, it's going to be big.
Well, there's a lot of runoff there.
There is, but there's also the pit exit.
Yeah, it joins in just... And also, we're in... Kuwait is very, very flat.
Yeah.
However, there are undulations
as
here,
you can see.
notably where the BMW is right now, coming over the top of the brow from turn 3 down to turn 5 and into the first part of turn 6. Lewis Plato behind the wheel of the Century Motorsport BMW. And that little drop over the top of the S's there, you cannot see over the top of there. It is much steeper than you realise. Actually, on the up slope from turn 2 to turn 3, because you are staring at the sky. And that, when we drove this last year in effectively a crossover, we were quite a lot higher off the ground than Lewis Plato is. We were probably sitting, our backsides were probably where Lewis's head is. Sorry, that's a fact. Don't get rid of that mental picture immediately. But our heads would have been poking out of the sunroof if the BMW had one.
Indeed, I remember that first lap when I went over there. I'd driven this track before, but I'd driven the shorter version of it, not that area. And I came over there, didn't remember the track turns sharply.
Yes, it does.
And yes, you can run across that area between 3 and 4 and join at 5, but it's not what you want to do. There's nasty ripple strips there that's going to do it. One thing I have been looking at, John, because as you said earlier on, it's a different track. Our fastest time in the race last year was a 1:52.062. These guys are in the 43s. So it is considerably faster when we take those 2 other left-hand corners out and the extension of the circuit through there. It is quite a bit shorter in time, and which means we're probably going to get more laps in the varying on code 60s, etc., etc.
It's effectively, you know, everything will be reset, won't it? So as far as lap records, distance records, we will not have anything to base it on. We will reset this again. What it does show, and people will say, but why have you done that? And actually, that's a good question. Why have they done that? And we ask this question of Gary Willems and the guys here at the track when we arrived here yesterday. Why have we done it? And they said, well, it's just a bit different. It gives a new challenge. They use it in some of the club events and the drive days here, and it gets a very good write-up. Now, these are very different cars, and we're racing for 12 hours. However, what it is going to do, for sure, is it's going to take quite a lot of pressure off the left front Hankook tyre, because coming into the old turn 14, 15 and 16, you're on that all the way around. And now is effectively an almost a straight run from 14 to what the hairpin, which is now being called 16A.
Yep.
You are not having to make that much tighter turn through 15 into 16. When we were driving even in the street car, what my idea was to do was to turn into turn 12, which is the first part of the pentagon, and then keep the same amount of lock on through 13 and 14, let the car roll all the way out to the right, and then turn it in again for 15 and 16, straight line into 17, and then build up speed onto the back straight at 18. Well, now you're actually winding lock off, not winding lock on from 14 onwards.
And I've seen during the practice sessions a lot of cars going off there. They're pushing the limit to see how much speed they can carry through to the new turn 16. So it's now more a quadrella of corners that they're going around rather than a quintex of corners. But I've seen a lot of cars go off there and then they drag gravel back onto the parabolica.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's a very, very different one.
Got a problem for Simpson Motorsports Audi RS3. Has done one lap in this session, but no more. They did put a 1:59.6 in last time around. Ricky Coomber is slated at that. We'll get down. We'll give Nick a moment to get down and try and find what's happening with that car and see if they've just decided to park it for a little while and save the machinery, or whether they are going to, or whether they have got a problem on that TCE. Only front-wheel drive car in the race, of course. Lap times coming down, 1:43.8 at the top for Sergei Nikolay in the Manamari Energy by EB Motors, and that at the moment would be good enough to give them third position with the average. Still with the best average, I reckon. No, actually, CP Racing's gone to the top now, ahead of the BMW Century Motorsport. Shane Lewis with a 1:43.9, Lewis Plato 1:44.5. That therefore gives CP Racing a 1:44.6. That's the best average with 2 minutes to go in this second part of qualifying. Now, got a bit of a problem out on the circuit, a moment or two ago. Just a little spin
turn
for
16.
the number at the very corner we were talking about, 16A. It is banked. It's actually much more banked than it seems to be for the K. Kramer Racing. That's Michele Di Martino behind the wheel of the red, white and black Porsche Cup car. That is one of the 992 Cup cars that is... they are so popular. This is the Carrera and Super Cup car, the current iteration of it. But as with other versions of the car down through the years, they are very impressive over longer distances. Normally only do between 30 and 50 minutes in various Carrera Cup and Super Cups around the world. But with a little bit of work, and there is an endurance kit that Porsche Motorsport at Weissach provides for them, they have become, down through the years, in various of the type numbers, going back to 997 actually. So that's 997, 991, 991.2.
That's when they had a gear stick.
Do you remember those gear sticks? You say my 992's got a gear stick, an actual.
It was
gear
a
stick.
sequential box, but it did have an actual gear stick.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
I think 996 was the last one that had a H pattern box.
Possibly, yes.
I drove a very early 996 Cup car at Brands Hatch, and at that point, that was the first car that I'd driven with ABS, because for the first year of Cup it had ABS. They ditched it after that. It was a very early version of it. But interestingly, in the US, in Porsche Carrera Cup North America, that has been spec'd with ABS from the start of that championship. It's an option box that you tick. And the reason behind that, talking to the guys at Porsche Motorsport North America, is they feel their young drivers are going to end up in GT4, GT3 or above, where they're going to have to get used to ABS.
Just hammering the brake pedal as hard as you can.
It's a very odd feeling.
Yes,
you couldn't do that in the 996, by the way.
No.
In the 996, if you hammered the pedal, and I do left foot brake, it would, they call it icing the brake pedal, and you would basically get no retardation at all. It wouldn't necessarily lock the wheels up, but you just wouldn't be slowing down.
Now, yes, it's akin to leaving your foot on the accelerator.
Well, I should say that racing ABS has come a very long way since then, and now you do use it all the way up to the apex. Good to see the KTM crossboat running around the Milwaukee Tails machine in that resplendent, in that very distinctive red and white liveries. Little less red on it this year than we had last year, but you wouldn't miss that one in the car park.
No, and why would you want to miss it? It's a stunning looking car and being driven very well. Daniel Drexel at the wheel at the moment, currently third in the GTX, standing 148.275. Just did his quickest lap in there as well, 148.192, as he took the checkered flag, and that brings to an end our second 15-minute session. One more to go.
At RSL_studio, if you want to get in touch with us here in the broadcast centre. This one of probably 3 or 4 circuits around the world where we can pretty much see the whole track. At RSL_studio, if you'd like to get in touch with Phil or myself, or you've got questions that you'd like Nick Damon to ask down in the pit lane where he is patrolling in the outside world at the moment.
Hello, well, yes, basically down at the Manamuri Energy by ABU Motors with Fabrizio Brogi. Now, interestingly, we just spoke to Colin White, who's on a comeback, and of course, this is your comeback as well. You know, you tried it at Barcelona, Fabrizio. It was still bad, but is your back now healed?
Well, it's healed, but still a bit hurts a bit. So I'm going to do the race this time. I'm going to force myself, but I got problems getting in and out of the car. That is funny.
Now, give us now. First of all, last time we saw you it was 992. Now you've made the big one. You've gone for a GT3, and you have Manamura Energy. Tell us about the changes to the team.
Well, we talked about it, that we were going to plan and try to do the jump on the big league. And fortunately, after Barcelona, we did succeed, and we did expand our relationship with Manamuri Energy Drinks. And so we managed to find a GT3 car, because it's actually very difficult right now to get one on the market. And we are here first time to test and to check how it is. We are really brand new into this category, and we only had the chance to try it for the first time yesterday. So,
so from your 1 day's experience, how different is the GT3 version of the Porsche Carrera than it is the 992 version, the Carrera Cup version?
Well, it is a race car. I think this jump is jumping into a real race car with aerodynamics, and cornering is incredible. Engines is the same. Really is not much of a difference, and probably with BOP is even worse than the Cup on the straight. But cornering is something amazing, and you have to learn all these gizmos that the car has in order to go fast. We will arrive there, but 1 day after, like it's the second day, it's already a lot what we are doing. So.
And you got 12 hours tomorrow, Fabrizio.
Correct. You will see also my time improving, easy without crashing the car like I did in Monza.
Great stuff. Thank you, Fabrizio.
Thanks a lot.
4.2 litres rather than 4 litres. Same basis of the energy for the GT3 car, but effectively that engine now in the GT3 car owes an awful lot to the old GTE car. It's out literally as far as it can go. I think it's something like 4.187 or 4.189 or 4.192. It isn't exactly 4.2. And when I talk to the Porsche engineers about why it was an odd size, they directed my attention to the cylinder heads and the block of the flat 6 motor. And when I looked at the flat 6 block, you could not have got a piece of tracing paper between the cylinder bores.
Wow.
There is not another cubic centimetre of capacity to go into that.
Honed to the max.
It is indeed. Still with the legendary Porsche reliability, we should say. The gizmos that he's talking about there, he's got adjustable traction control, which the Cup car doesn't have anything of. And they have a different version of the ABS that we were talking about, as well as quite a few other bits and pieces to play with. Even though it's a GT3 car, there's much more on the steering wheel than there is in the Cup car. And so there's a lot more toys A lot more tools. The IndyCar drivers would call them tools in the car. There's a lot more tools in the car. Now, they don't go as far as the old GTE version of the car, the Le Mans versions of the car, where you had things like paddles behind the steering wheel, not for changing gear, but for your brake balance.
Okay.
And you could change that in between corners, and they did. The good drivers did. So it's not quite as sophisticated as that car, which had a steering wheel that I was going to say looked like it came from the 919 hybrid. Actually, that's because it did. They used the same design, and that's of course why all the guys who came up from that car into the 919 and then back again to GTs, they felt so much at home. I think there was 4 thumb wheels, 6 paddles, so 3 different sets of paddles, and 4 dials and with sub-dials. So you're used to listening to Formula One pit stick driver radio.
Yep.
So when they are talking about positioning something, it might be the top right dial, which will be green.
Yeah.
So you'll hear them say green 4 alpha 6.
Yeah.
And so they are actually moving. So each of those settings has perhaps 3 or 4 sub-settings at the minimum. That's what that car was like. It's not quite as much as that on the GT3, but I urge you, if you get the opportunity to have a look, then the differences between the steering wheel. Red Camel Jordan, at the moment, with the butterfly wheel, that's a cup car.
Yep.
You do not have to have a full round or all-void steering wheel in a cup car, whereas you do in a GT. You used to have that in a GT Le Mans car and a GT3 car. That's now not quite the same. It looks like a bit of a handful at the moment.
It does indeed. I think
909. Who's behind the wheel of that? Is it Rick? It is Rick. He's pushing on. But look at the simplicity of that steering wheel. It's a set of buttons like perhaps you might have on your sim setup at home. Coloured buttons, illuminated at night, and that's something else you've got to get right, by the way, the level and the colours of illumination, plus your paddle shifters behind. There'll be a big difference if we see an onboard or get Seb to have a look at one of the GT3 versions of the Porsches that's out there. In fact, we've only got the one, haven't we? The Manamauri Energy, and it's Cosimo Papi who's behind the wheel of that car. Rick behind the wheel of Red Camel Dash Jordans at the moment in the 909.
Heading down to the final corner.
Yeah, just come through 16A.
Yeah.
Am I imagining it? Or has there been a little bit of grinding?
I don't
just
know.
Over the top of the rise there, coming down into the final corner?
I think we saw it a little bit more because the cars were approaching at a higher speed. So I think it may have been accentuated by the extra, probably 20 or 30 kilometres an hour that they were taking through that corner.
You're watching and listening to live, free, global coverage, no blocks or breaks of the Hankook 12 Hours of Kuwait. End of 2023, but already starting the 2024 season, if you will, with the first of the triumvirate of trophy races in the Middle East Cup. Good to have your company wherever you are in the world. Just coming up to 3:45 here in Kuwait. That's 1:45 in the UK, 1:45 in Europe. Friday afternoon motor racing. Yes, please, sir. We'll have a bit of that. Friday morning, a little bit earlier on in the US. Hello to Tom Marshallak, who I think is listening in rather than watching at the moment while he's working. He had to miss our live programme on Wednesday because he works in IT, does Tom. Hello, Tom. And he had what was described as a 4-alarm fire that he had to deal with. I don't think that was literal, but I think there was an awful lot going on. So Tom,
wrong.
Good to have you on. Now, you see, I've just said that, and I can't remember now if that was Tom or whether it was Jerry Z down in Florida. But anyway, Tom, Jerry, nice to have your company. And welcome to the programme. Let us know where you're listening, please, at RSL_studio. And don't forget the timing and scoring as well via the website. So much information on the website, livetiming.getraceresults.com and hashtag 24H series, but you'll find all that when you get there. running times, tracker, stats,
everything.
messages to the team and penalties. You can choose to have that in a light or dark version. We have both here. Phil, I've got Tim on my mind today, haven't I, for some reason. Hello, Tim, up in London. Phil prefers the light version, I prefer the dark version.
Indeed, yin and yang. We're seeing a lot of track limits at turn 4 at the moment. That's the little flick T3, T4, and I just saw the 971 go over there. Christopher Zuckling at the wheel of that one at the moment. But yeah, a lot of track limits at turn 4. One of the new things for this year, CP Racing gets all sorts of sideways out of the final corner, but that's Charles Espinard at the wheel. But one of the new things for this year is the drive-through penalty for track limits during the race.
Yeah.
Now, that's huge,
yeah,
because there are a lot of changes happening with it. Yeah, there's a lot of travelling, and let's have a look at Charles exploring the limits of grip, shall we say, as he just runs a little bit wide.
Do you know what? Of all of that, I think his left front Hankook was still on the red and white curb, so I think that wasn't track limits.
I don't think he's going to get pinged for that one.
No,
we've got a lot of changes coming to this this season, and it will follow on to the European season as well. The Code 60 refueling, about 25% from 50%.
Oh, now that makes a huge difference to your strategy.
It does, absolutely massive. Remember last year we had guys coming through and filling up in the pits, doing 2 pit stops, getting an absolute chock-a-block full tank on a long Code 60. So from green flag to Code 60, the minute the Code 60 starts, for the moment the Code 60 starts, the remaining amount that may be refueled is 25% of the maximum.
So if you're on the pump and you've got 50%,
yeah,
that means you'd have to stop straight away.
Yeah. Right. And that's going to be interesting. And penalties during a Code 60, no longer allowed to be served under Code 60.
Oh.
They have to be served under green flag.
Now, they were doubled under Code 60, yes, but everybody worked out pretty quickly. It was still worthwhile taking it.
Exactly. So
Paul Truswell will be reviewing his algorithms.
He's going to have to make some big changes to that spreadsheet.
Very
now,
interesting. Hello to Lazenby Visuals, tuned in from home this time, but will be out for Dubai and Abu Dhabi from North Yorkshire. Nice to know that you are tuned in, getting ready for the Christmas break, such as it is. Cross the line then for EB Motors. The averages at the moment, the best average is a 1:44.4. With Charles Espinard just having turned a 45.6, but that car's best time of 44 flat, which is the best time of anybody at the moment. Remember, it will be the 3-session average that will set the grid for tomorrow's 12 hours. Once we've finished here, don't go too far away, because we have got nighttime practice, which is very evocative here. There are lights around the circuit here, but they are not Abu Dhabi Grand Prix or Bahrain or Saudi Arabia style nighttime lights. They are more, yes, they are lovely lights. They are more akin to street lights. So you're going from a pool of light to a pool of light to a pool of light. I really liked it. It was one of the things last year. I thought there was enough for us and the cameras to see, but it was still a challenge. There's still some weird shadows. It means you do have to get your headlamp and additional lamps set up properly, and we're still seeing here, and it surprises me not at all, the bright extra LED light on the front of, say, the KTM Crossbow, that immaculately repaired Milwaukee Tools car.
That's the local driver, Haytham Karajuli, out there. He's been doing a lot of motor racing since we last saw him here, and so he's doing a fantastic job. Yeah,
love this track. And by the way, echo exactly what Colin said. I would love to drive this CWS machine, which has got at the moment Christian Broberg behind the wheel, back with the venerable G55.
Yep.
And I echo what Colin says, the faster you drive it, the better it gets. It makes a lot of sense, that flow. Hello to Basim Balki. Oh, I said that right, Basim, from Atlanta. Presume that's Atlanta, Georgia. So that's quite early in the morning. There. Hello, Basim. Thank you for joining us. How's everyone doing? We're doing great. We've got a bit of sunshine.
Oh, it's stunning.
We're being well looked after by Khaled and the team here at Kuwait Motor Town. Once again, the catering squad are knocking it out of the park to the point where we're having to ration ourselves going down into crew catering because it would be too easy to eat 3 huge meals a day. And in fairness, between the voices that you'll hear, Nick Damon is by far the most svelte of us.
He is indeed.
Between Phil, Joe Bradley and myself, we could, to be honest...
We carry our weight well.
We do, all the time. It wouldn't hurt us to miss a meal or two. We're not gonna keel over.
Month of meals.
Yeah. Your words, Phil. Your words.
My doctor's words.
Yeah.
Boring. Hey, it's great to see the 138 back out there. Simpson Motorsport, Jack Lemmer at the wheel. They missed that qualifying too. Now, what's going to happen with that is that they... when we get all of these 3 sessions, they're added up and divided by 3. Their sessions will be added up and divided by 2. So that's how they'll get their qualifying position.
But they will go to the back, though.
Yes, yeah. So it's we don't know what that problem was with the Simpson Motorsport Audi RS3 LMS DSG with James Kay, Ricky Coomer, Henry Neal and Jack Lemmer at the wheel, but we'll find out.
Now, you may recognise some names there, particularly the family names, as in Henry Neal and Jack Lemmer. The given names, the Christian names, perhaps a little bit more unknown to you. James Kay is the James Kay. Ricky Coomber is the Ricky Coomber, and of course Henry Neal and Jack Lemmer are the Neal and Lemmer that I mentioned, Jack and Henry, and they are second-generation drivers because it's Mark Lemmer's son Jack and Matt Neal's son Henry.
Yep.
So actually, I suppose you could say for sure Henry's 3rd generation, because the much missed Steve Neal did a bit of driving in his day as well, his grandfather. If we're talking about father and son combos, Freddie Tomlinson, along with Michael Simpson and his dad Lawrence Tomlinson, in a G56 Cup car in GTX, and Lawrence's daughter runs the company now.
Wow.
As well, so keeping that in the family. Saw Lawrence at breakfast this morning, and he was looking as fit as a butcher's dog's personal trainer.
Wow.
He said, I said, is this the portent of something else? He said, yes, I'm having a comeback. I said, you've never left. Never left. So good news is that we're going to see a bit more of Lawrence Tomlinson, who, let us not forget, amongst all of his other achievements, is a Le Mans class winner when he took a Paynos to class victory in the GT category at Le Mans. Paul Trustwell has just let me know his algorithms are fully updated. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Hello, Paul. Hope you're feeling fit. Paul took a nasty tumble, actually, at Barcelona, but dealt with it in his usual stoic manner and was back on duty on commentary at Mission Motorsport's Race of Remembrance, but doing this one remotely and still helping out Red Camel in the 12 hours of Kuwait tomorrow, and the race is tomorrow, of course.
Indeed. There's a lot more track limits coming in, and that turn 4, turn 3, turn 4, turn 11, turn 13.
Is it easy to say where we're not getting track limits?
Probably better, yes. Turn 1 is probably the best.
Turn 1 and turn 20, about the only 2 places that we aren't the first. Interesting, we are still calling it on the track map turn 20.
Yeah.
Whilst, in fact, there are actually now fewer than 20 corners.
Yes, I did count them up. We actually have 19 turns, 10 left and 9 right. Okay.
So
14, 15,
16. No, I think we've only got 17.
17? Well, you got 16A there, which is 17. 14, 15, 16.
Well, nah.
See, I'm calling that 15.
No, see, I
the
think
track map's confusing us.
T16 we're not using, because that's part of the old track. So it's 14, 15, 16A, 17, 18. I'm going to give you 18. Let's go down to Nick Damon, who is at CP Racing, the team that won the inaugural running of this race here last year. Charles Esplanade just lurking down there at the moment. That car's best time of 44 flat, and I reckon they're leading on the averages after that session as well. 44.410.
Well, according to us, Charles, you are leading in the averages. I think you fast up as well. So obviously 1 year on, same old, fastest for CP.
Oh, we're really looking forward to coming back to Kuwait. I mean, everybody's like, Kuwait, really? You're going to Kuwait? And I'm like, no, it's really nice there. You know, people are nice. The track is incredible. They changed it up a little bit on us there.
For better or worse?
And to be absolutely honest, it's a little worse, I think, safety-wise, but fun-wise, I mean, it's okay. Our strengths were probably better on the old track, but obviously we did great, so can't complain. So happy to be back. Track's, I think, a little better than it was last year as far as some of the runoff in areas. And, you know, again, everybody, the staff's great. Good to be here. And CP Racing put us together a great car, so we're looking forward to another, hopefully, great race.
Yeah, you are one of the teams doing the whole of the Middle East Trophy. We're seeing you in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I mean, it gives an idea about this CP team. You've been one of the stalwarts, of course, of the CREVENTIC series, but there's a rumour this could be coming to an end.
Yeah, you know, our main man, Charlie, he's given us a great ride for the last, we've been driven together for over 20 years, and, you know, he's still driving awesome, but, you know, he's got some other things he needs to get done, and, you know, he'll still be with us in spirit, and we'll see where it works out. In the next season, but I'm sure you're going to see CP racing around for a while.
But of course, only people who enter all three races can win the Middle East Trophy. So already you're down to a chance of 1 in 14 of winning it.
Yeah, so you know, good head start. You know, we missed Abu Dhabi last year, and I was kind of disappointed in that. And this year we decided to do all three, so I'm very happy, and obviously to be with my brothers, and you know, this team's a family, and I'll start tearing up a little bit, but it's great to be here with them.
Well, the good news is we're doing all three as well. Obviously, that's made it even better for you, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, right? Always great to have you.
Thanks, Charles. Charles Esmeralda, who's the average for CP Racing is the fastest of all.
As Nick rightly said, they had the fastest time as well. We'll give you the full rundown in just a few moments' time of exactly what the lineup will be, but before that, let's take a look back at some of the action from those qualifying sessions. Remember, it was 3 qualifying sessions of 15 minutes each in the middle to late afternoon. Sun at this time of the year does drop very, very quickly indeed. By my reckoning, it will be CP Racing on pole position for the GT category, and overall from in second place, Century Motorsport, and in third, the Manamari Energy by EB Motors Porsche. And this is how it all unfolded in the qualifying sessions. So the 3 GT3s, unsurprisingly, at the front of the field, and we'll have night practice coming to you here in about an hour's time. That is 3 hours plus from GMT back in the UK, so you can work that out yourself. It's about an hour from now, and I think it's one of the most evocative times to go racing. A little bit of a prelude to what we'll have here tomorrow during the race. So set yourself aside some time. Go and make yourself a bite to eat. Maybe brew up a pot of tea or something like that. And join Phil, Nick, Joe, and myself, John Hindorf. Thanks to our hard-working All 221 team here and in Cologne, and also Tim Gray up in London. Join us in an hour for night practice. Bye-bye for now.